American Meghan Markle is about to enter a real-life fairy tale. In just a few days' time, she will marry Prince Harry and become part of the world's most famous royal family, the Windsors.
This is the kind of stuff that comes out of movies.
This beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life.
This is going to be a huge royal wedding.
The royal family would have had an idea for who would be the perfect bride for Prince Harry. Meghan Markle couldn't be any more different. She's American, she's a divorcee.
And she's half black.
It's a recipe for, well, we'll see.
This is the real story behind the curtain, from personal friends and palace insiders to the British aristocracy themselves.
Oh my goodness, a commoner.
This was such an unlikely pairing.
Harry's just torn up the rule book, fell in love, and just wanted to marry the love of his life.
And now they're about to live happily ever after.
That fairy tale can sour.
It will come at a cost to her.
I don't believe Diana would have walked away from a sister in a wheelchair.
This is going to be a tidal wave of change.
We're gonna get a little color in there.
We're giving the American blood into that royal family.
How will it end?
This is a job for which she must sacrifice everything.
Respect my children.
All the things that frightened the royal family have suddenly arrived on their doorstep. I can hear Diana laughing now.
On May 19th, the world will be watching as Meghan Markle marries Prince Harry in a spectacular ceremony. There's nothing like a British royal wedding. But this time, the soldiers, the flags, the glittering carriages, and the crowds are all there for an American actress. She'll be marrying into a family that can trace their ancestry over 1,000 years. The Windsors are worth $33 billion and own huge castles, vast areas of land, and priceless collections of art and jewelry.
It's the pinnacle of society and envied throughout the world.
Prince Harry is sixth in line to the British throne, grandson of the Queen, and great-great-great-great-grandson of Queen Victoria. Although Harry was born into a world of breathtaking privilege, he suffered a tragic childhood. At just 12 years old, he and his older brother William lost their mother, Princess Diana, in a car crash when she was being pursued by the paparazzi. It tore their lives apart. Paul Burrell was Princess Diana's butler and trusted confidant from 1987 until her death.
After Princess Diana died, the two boys lost their anchor in life. They lost the most precious person in their world, their mother. And they were sucked back into that cold, hostile world of the royal family, where emotions and feelings can never be discussed.
Prince Harry was grown up, I think, feeling angry, bitter, resentful, and also lacking in a mother figure to be able to put her arm around him, as she always used to do, and tell him it's all going to be okay.
As he grew older, Harry developed a wild reputation.
There was always the omnipresent cameras waiting for him to trip up, whether it was falling out of a nightclub or attacking a paparazzi.
I've always been the person that I'll be, I go out and have a good time like anybody else does. I don't see what's wrong with that. I've been slagged off for it in the past, and I'll no doubt get slagged off more.
The feeling I got with Harry was that he just has been running, but not quite sure where he's running to.
But Harry also had a vulnerable side.
A little bit oversensitive sometimes, a few people have told me.
And people began to compare him with his mother, Diana. Aristocrat Lady Colin Campbell is a royal biographer.
I met Diana when she was about 17, and I see quite a lot of Diana in Harry. Good Diana in Harry. He has the common touch. He has empathy, he has sympathy, he has affection and warmth.
That warmth went a long way as Harry began to transform his image from playboy to one of the world's most eligible bachelors.
Besides being a member of the royal family, Prince Harry is a real catch because he's good looking, he's got a brilliant sense of humor, he's normal.
He's always been the cool royal to us. He's all about charities.
He's always doing something interesting, cool, and forward, and now, and like hip.
I think that there is this emotional side of him that we don't really see in other members of the royal family.
Prince Harry has bucked the family male genes of baldness, goofy teeth, and small chins. He's standout handsome by anyone's standards. This 6-foot, 2-inch action hero flew Apache gunship helicopters in the British Army and has a strapping physique of a hunky athlete.
The frosting on the cake is that he is part of the royal family.
We used to see Prince Harry in magazines. He would be featured on the front and everyone would be all the rage about him.
He's just the most eligible bachelor ever. Ever.
He's somebody you would want to park his slippers underneath your bed, full stop.
And everyone was asking, when would someone be parking their slippers?
You know, there comes times when you think, right, now's the time to settle down, or now's not. I don't think you can force these things.
Harry's heartthrob reputation even spawned an American reality show, where a lookalike was up for grabs.
I quite like you.
I quite like you, too. I could be Prince Harry's girlfriend, if he wants a girl like me.
The setup was fake. So who was going to get their hands on the real deal?
The royal family would have had an idea for who would be the perfect bride for Prince Harry. And she would have been a white English rose, a posh girl from a right background and the right school, who absolutely ticks every box of royal brides.
But Harry had other ideas. In July 2016, he went on a blind date with a woman who couldn't have been more different. At 36, she is the same age that Diana was when she died. What's more, she's a so-called commoner, an American from suburban Los Angeles. Around that time, Meghan Markle went to have a drink at the London pub, the Scarsdale Tavern, with the journalist, Piers Morgan.
We became quite good cyber friends. And then she said, look, I'm coming to London, I'd love to meet up with you. And I said, great, why don't you come to my local pub? And she walked in, the shades, the clothes, the heels. I remember thinking, wow, she looks like a superstar. Well, there was a moment when she started looking at her phone and it was like buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. And she sort of slightly blushed. And I said, are you okay? She said, I'm recently single again. And I've just got some guys being quite persistent. That was almost certainly Prince Harry. And I think that he was interrupting my drinks with Miss Markle to declare undying interest in seeing her, which is exactly what she then did. Her reaction was interesting. It was like a little bit embarrassed, but I would say a little bit excited too. So I packed her off in an Uber to 5 Hertford Street.
The destination 5 Hertford Street is a glamorous private members club in Mayfair, frequented by London's high society.
The last I ever heard from her. And I would imagine that that was because she said, oh, I know another British guy. It's Piers Morgan. At which Prince Harry, who remembers me from my days as a newspaper editor in this country, probably went, what? What? Probably third time, what?
What? I met someone. Really? At the club? Mm-hmm.
But Meghan herself would have created a panic at the palace. No innocent debutante, ready to submit blindly to royal protocol. She's a strong, outspoken woman who has already forged her own career. Starting as a game show hostess, she went on to become a talented actress, starring in the hit legal drama, Suits.
She's got millions in the bank. She's established. She's a strong, firm, powerful woman.
If you have this kind of job and you have an opportunity to have a profile where people are listening to what you're saying, I really, truly think you need to be saying something that's valuable.
She's a UN ambassador, a feminist. I mean, she's so many things, and this is all pre-Harry.
Women make up more than half of the world's population and potential. So it is neither just nor practical for their voices, for our voices, to go unheard at the highest levels of decision-making.
And when it comes to the history of the royal family, there's something else completely unprecedented about Meghan.
Her mother and her father are separated. Her dad is white, Thomas Markle, the lighting director in Hollywood, and her mother, Doria Ragland, is a yoga teacher who lives in LA, and she's black.
Another break from royal tradition is the fact that Meghan is a divorcee. She was married for 2 years to film producer Trevor Ingleson before calling it off and sending her rings back to him in the post.
I'm sure that when the courtiers found out that this woman existed, all the alarm bells rang at Buckingham Palace, and I could almost hear them saying, pull the shutters down. It's an invasion.
She's mixed race, she's American, she's a divorcee, actress. Those are 4 ticks. No member of the royal family, the senior members, ever thought they would see having to be ticked when it came to Harry's bride.
All the things that frightened the royal family have suddenly arrived on their doorstep. I can hear Diana laughing now.
Coming up.
Meghan's marrying into a family which has, to put it mildly, a dodgy track record on race. It's not Meghan Markle's problem, it's their problem.
Harry is gonna get a mother-in-law that's black with dreads.
It's time to move on. Things are changing.
For the first time ever, there's a mixed-race person marrying into the royal family.
And on May 19th, there'll be a wedding that will change the royal family forever.
Harry and Meghan's wedding is like no other wedding.
I think it's modern, it's young, it's now.
Oh, I've got goosebumps.
In just a few days' time, when actress Meghan Markle marries the Queen's grandson, Prince Harry, she will be instantly elevated to the title of Duchess.
I mean, the Duchess. She'll probably tell her mother, Mom, I'm gonna be the Duchess. But you know, her mom's gonna be like, you know, you still Meghan. I named you Meghan. I don't care what the Queen named you. You're still my Meghan.
Comedian Lonnie Love is a fan of Meghan and Harry and will be heading to the UK to join the crowds at the wedding.
I'm not missing this one. I missed all the other ones. I'm able to go. I'm going to go to the wedding.
Harry and Meghan had first started dating in London in the summer of 2016.
Met for a drink, and then I think very quickly into that we said, what are we doing tomorrow? We should meet again.
What are we doing tomorrow? Let's meet again.
To keep their relationship protected from the prying eyes of the paparazzi, Harry had gone to extreme lengths.
I managed to persuade her to come and join me in Botswana.
Royal correspondent and insider Victoria Murphy follows the Windsors everywhere.
He whisked her off to Botswana, a place that's very close to his heart. He took that opportunity to have some really private time with her, to woo her under the stars. I really think that's where the relationship, you know, cemented.
We camped out under the stars. We spent 5 days out there, which was absolutely fantastic. We were really by ourselves, which was crucial to me to make sure that we had a chance to get to know each other.
They both knew they'd found someone special. They were going to find a way to try and get this off the ground and make it work.
What do I think they share? Well, the obvious is something we will not mention, but I'm sure that there's lots of that.
Oh my! You're gonna make a girl blush.
Harry had undeniable chemistry with Meghan, but her life, 5,000 miles away, couldn't have been more different from his. Meghan was born on August 4th, 1981, to Thomas Markle and Doria Ragland. Thomas already had a teenage daughter from a previous marriage, and with Meghan and Doria, the blended family set up home in the suburbs of LA. Samantha Markle was 16 when Meghan was born.
So we found a home in Woodland Hills, California, which is it's a pretty normal upper middle class neighborhood. When Meghan was born, we had a focus. We were united as a family. We had, common goal, common laughter in the house. It was exciting. She was so giggly. She was our little flower. It was quite exciting seeing her launch her life, take off, and blossom.
The Royal Highness, take one.
Definitely very feminine, you know, always liking the prettiest shoes. Our father, Thomas, was and is a great dad. When we doubted ourselves, he was the first one to teach us about inner strength.
But when Meghan was 6, Thomas and Doria's relationship came to an end, and they divorced.
We'd had several talks, and the focus was ensuring that Meg never felt a sense of separation.
Meghan attended the Little Red Schoolhouse in LA. When she was 11, she campaigned against a Procter & Gamble soap commercial on TV that portrayed women as belonging in the kitchen.
Women are fighting greasy pots and pans with Ivory Clear.
I don't think it's right for kids to grow up thinking these things, that just mom does everything.
She was very aggressive, wrote a letter to Procter & Gamble, sent a letter to Hillary Clinton. Through her pushing, she got it changed to people across America are now fighting greasy pots and pans.
The gloves are coming off. People are fighting greasy pots and pans with Ivory Clear.
If you see something that you don't like or offended by on television or any other place, write letters and send them to the right people, and you can really make a difference.
That's quite a mile marker for a child.
As a teenager, Meghan sat outside the gates of the Queen's home in London, Buckingham Palace.
Perhaps she wondered what life was like behind the gates, but I don't think it was a strategy. It would have been such a foreign concept, literally.
Meghan attended the Catholic Immaculate Heart High School.
It's a liberal arts school, so dance, drama.
Previous students included Mary Tyler Moore and Tyra Banks.
People were always drawn to Meghan. She wouldn't walk past you without acknowledging you with a smile. From freshman to senior, everybody knew her, and everybody felt the same. She had nothing but positive vibes.
Meghan always knew and always said that she wanted to be an actress. She had been involved in it through her dad, who was a lighting designer, and she'd been inspired by the whole energy and excitement of the industry.
Meghan always had a sparkle, and we used to laugh and say, your last name rhymes with sparkle, Meghan Markle, and you sparkle.
As she began her acting career, Meghan was determined to make it at any cost, even working as a briefcase girl in 2006, bearing her flesh on game show Deal or No Deal. Tamika Jacobs was also one of the hostesses.
21, Tamika.
I think Deal or No Deal was kind of a stepping stone for Meghan, but more importantly, I mean, it's a paycheck at the end of the day. The dresses would come in floor length, like beautiful gowns, and then they'd break out those scissors and just cut them, and then we'd be sad because we went from like, we're going to the Oscars or the Grammys to now we're going to the casino.
24, Meghan. I'm pretty sure now, to date, if her and Harry had to sit down and watch that, he would be screaming at the television, deal, deal, because he got the best deal.
She's had to take jobs that she's said retrospectively she's not incredibly proud of. This was an actress who was a jobbing actress until she landed that all-important break in Suits.
Legal drama Suits premiered in 2011. Meghan played paralegal Rachel Zane, and the show ran to 7 seasons. Once Meghan had hit the big time, she began to use her fame to campaign for feminist causes. She even took to the airways to lash out at President-to-be Donald Trump.
Yes, of course Trump is divisive. Think about just female voters alone, right? I mean, as misogynistic as Trump is and so vocal about it, that's a huge chunk of it.
But when Meghan joins the royal family in just a few days' time, fighting talk like that will be firmly banished. The first golden rule of the House of Windsor, known as the Firm, is never talk politics and avoid controversy at all costs. It means taking your views offline.
Before she met Harry, Meghan obviously had prolific social media profiles. As an actress, she'd been promoting herself on Instagram, on Twitter, on the internet.
Meghan was forced to close her lifestyle blog, The Tig, and went on to close her Instagram and Twitter accounts.
She's got no way of communicating except when she's allowed to communicate.
Closing a few accounts is painful, but how far will Meghan be expected to go? And how far will she agree to go? Future King, Prince William's wife, Kate Middleton, has neutralized her image to fit in with the royal family.
Kate is fundamentally a very, very conservative woman who has realised that one day she is going to be queen.
So she has to be quite bland, she has to be quite regal, she has to be uncontroversial.
Ma'am, great news. How do you feel about yesterday's royal wedding announcement?
William and I are absolutely thrilled. It's such exciting news. It's a really happy time for any couple, and we wish them all the best.
But avoiding controversy altogether is a big ask.
In every family, there's going to be someone, a family member, who is going to cause a bit of a problem or you never really got on with.
You know, we all have these aunts or uncles or distant cousins that we're embarrassed of.
Meghan's half-brother, Thomas Jr., has a history of drug and alcohol abuse. And in 2017, had a run-in with the police over an alleged firearms incident. When Thomas Jr. began talking to the press, it caused a family rift.
When he got loose in the media, it was quite frightful. He's doing incredible damage to his own life and horrible damage to the reputation of the family.
The firearms charge was eventually dropped, but Thomas Jr. was still causing embarrassment.
He had sent letters to the palace suggesting somehow that he wasn't hireable because of all of the media attention. I could only imagine how Meg and Harry would feel watching all of these antics, watching all of this go on.
Samantha's relationship with Meghan is also under strain. She last met up with her sister in 2008, and they haven't spoken since a phone call 4 years ago. Samantha lives in Ocala, Florida, with her partner and suffers from multiple sclerosis.
If I ran a campaign for a wheelchair-accessible home, realistically, for me, it would be about $200,000, and so I've been saving towards that. I assumed that she would get in touch with me. My gut feeling was that, okay, you're in a position on the world stage, and in order to demonstrate that you can reach out globally, isn't it logical that you should first reach out at home? A phone call only takes a couple of minutes. I don't believe Diana would have walked away from a sister in a wheelchair.
I think what's going on with Meghan Markle's family is like Cinderella and the sisters. You know, there's bound to be jealousy when one of them gets to become a princess.
No, I have not been invited to the wedding. I do think she should invite me, and I'd love to be there. I was hoping that Meg would just call me. Whether it's in person or I have to send it, I definitely will send them a gift.
Families are families. It's never plain sailing, and it's not going to be like that for Meghan either. There's always somebody in the background willing to come forward to tell a tale or two. Meghan will just have to get used to that.
Coming up, Harry goes on the attack and warns the press to back off Meghan.
I've been told that she was in tears on the phone to Harry.
He was not going to let the press treat Meghan Markle the way the press treated Diana.
In the fall of 2016, Prince Harry and American Meghan Markle had been secretly dating for 4 months, and things were starting to heat up.
The fact that I fell in love with Meghan so incredibly quickly was sort of confirmation to me that all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life.
As a royal correspondent, Emily Andrews regularly meets with the Windsors.
I had seen Harry, and he was so enthusiastic, so full of bonhomie. We were talking about what he'd been doing in the summer, and you could tell something was different, something had changed. And of course, it was only when it was revealed that he was dating Meghan that I thought, okay, that's why he's so happy.
It was 4 months before news of the royal romance leaked out. It caused a worldwide sensation. Everyone was talking about it.
People recognized her from Suits, but not everyone watched Suits, so she wasn't globally famous. But she became globally famous the minute that romance was revealed. Suddenly, she couldn't go to her favorite yoga studio. She couldn't pop in and get her latte from her regular coffee shop. There would be paparazzi on the corner of every street.
Morning, Meghan. Any plans for the holidays?
She's now in the electronic goldfish bowl where we're all looking in, seeing exactly what she's wearing, what she's doing, what she's saying.
Harry had bitter memories of what happened to his mother, Diana, when she was in the goldfish bowl. Diana became the most hunted person of the modern age. She was constantly being driven to tears while being pursued by the pack of dogs that is the paparazzi.
She was the most photographed woman in the world.
Diana once said to me, well, I had lunch with her once at Kensington Palace, she said, the reality is I could go and live in an igloo with the Eskimos and the paparazzi would find me.
As a parent, could I ask you to respect my children's space?
She'd have to run away from paparazzi. And very often I'd be driving the car with the door open and she'd fling herself into the car whilst the car was in motion. The princess often drove herself in her car and the paparazzi was stuck to the windscreen taking pictures of her.
Photographers on motorcycles followed Diana everywhere. There was no escape. Finally, on August 31st, 1997, she was chased just after midnight by up to 30 motorcycles while being driven in the Mercedes from the Ritz Hotel in Paris with her boyfriend, Dodi Fayed.
Breaking news coverage, Princess Diana is seriously injured.
There had been extreme concern.
The Press Association announced with a news flash
that the world has lost Princess Diana at age 36.
The car struck a pillar in a tunnel under the Alma Bridge at high speed. Dodi and the driver, Henri Paul, who'd been drinking, died instantly. Princess Diana died of her injuries in a nearby hospital a few hours later.
It was very sad. It was probably one of the saddest days in this country, and the country took leave of its senses. When Diana died, God, the whole country just went into mourning. It was terrible.
Royal insider Patrick Jeffson was the first and only private secretary to Princess Diana, and for 8 years traveled the world with her and her sons.
This was probably the most precious gem that the Windsors were ever going to be given, and it had fallen through their fingers.
When I went to Paris, I went into the room where she was lying, and I took her hand and held her hand. And of course, I was very emotional, and I begged her. I said, why didn't you take me? Please take me with you. I don't want to be here. I want to be with you. The night before she was buried, I asked the Queen if Diana could come back to Kensington Palace. And I sat with Diana all through the night and talked non-stop about our time together inside these walls. And for me, that was very cathartic because that was my time to say goodbye.
As the Queen's former press secretary and media manager to Charles and Diana, Dickie Arbiter worked within the inner circle for over a decade.
I got word that Diana had died. That was at my desk in the palace. And interesting enough, about 10 to 5 that morning, the first bunch of flowers was put on the gates of Buckingham Palace, and word quickly spread, and the flowers just started coming like an avalanche, and likewise at Kensington Palace. So I really was in the thick of it.
Harry, age 12, and 15-year-old brother William were brought to the scene.
All around them, people were weeping and wailing, but they maintained a composure, which gave rise to the sort of maxim within royal circles: you do not wear private grief on a public sleeve.
After Diana's death, her brother, Earl Spencer, marched to the gates of his home in Cape Town and made his views very clear.
I always believed the press would kill her in the end. But not even I could imagine that they would take such a direct hand in her death, as seems to be the case. It would appear that every proprietor and editor of every publication that has paid for intrusive and exploitative photographs of her, encouraging greedy and ruthless individuals to risk everything in pursuit of Diana's image, has blood on his hands today.
At Diana's funeral, Harry cut a tragic figure when he joined William in the procession behind their mother's coffin.
They didn't want to do it, but it is a done thing in royal circles that the male members walk behind the gun carriage. When you think of these two young lads walking behind a gun carriage with not just 1 million people along the route watching them, but over 1 billion people watching worldwide on television, quite a daunting experience.
As a royal press photographer, Arthur Edwards has known the princess since birth.
One stage saw Harry's face crack up. I didn't take the picture. I just felt I just couldn't take the picture. It probably would have just destroyed so many people, you know, because he was the baby. He was, I think, 12. He was going to miss her most.
I think what we've learnt from the Diana years is how very scarred her children are by the media. And I don't care what anyone says, they hate the media. And they definitely blame photographers for their mother's death. And into this world comes Meghan.
And it wasn't long before Meghan herself began suffering vitriol from the press.
Some commentators in the British and in the foreign press were quick to point out Meghan's racial background. Some people were incredibly racist, incredibly rude. I think Meghan was very upset, actually. I've been told that she was in tears on the phone to Harry. And of course, Harry wanted to protect her. He wanted to be this knight in shining armor.
He loves this woman, and he's not going to let anybody speak poorly of her.
Tradition and strict protocol have seen the royals rise above lies and gossip in the tabloids and refuse to comment. But Harry was furious and went on the attack. He put out a written statement declaring his relationship with Meghan and slamming the press.
So he put out this extraordinary statement, essentially accusing them of racist behaviour, of racist words. He said that he was disappointed, he hadn't been able to protect her, and he asked everybody to back off.
And that showed me two things. One, he really cared about this woman, was feeling very protective. But secondly, he was not going to let the press treat Meghan Markle the way the press treated Diana.
He's setting a bar and saying, hey, no, this is not how we behave. This is not appropriate.
And everybody backed off.
Coming up, Meghan Markle meets the royal family for the very first time.
You've got to be incredibly strong-willed to last in that family.
In 8 days' time, American actress Meghan Markle will marry into a new family. But this is no ordinary family.
Members of the royal family are all gods in their own kingdoms. No one ever says no to any of them. They have everything they want. And Meghan is walking into that world.
Meghan will have to come to grips with how the family are all related. Harry's grandmother is a queen, but she is also the Duke of Lancaster. She is actually married to a duke, that is the Duke of Edinburgh. Beyond that, we've got the children, the Prince of Wales. He is actually Prince Charles. That's Harry's dad. Charles' sister is Princess Anne, but you all call her the Princess Royal, as no one calls her Princess Anne anymore. Her brother is the Duke of York, but he is actually Prince Andrew. Prince William is actually the Duke of Cambridge. Prince Andrew, that is the Duke of York that I mentioned earlier. He's got 2 daughters, the Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice. By the way, it's Eugenie, not Eugenie. Make sure you get that right. Confused? Meghan will be.
I've met all of the royals on numerous occasions, and they are like, it's like a walking Madame Tussauds. There are these people, but they're actually moving, and you've only known them from television or pictures in the papers, but they're real people. You've got the Queen, who's magnificent and has a wicked sense of humour when you meet her.
I know she loves Prince Harry, so I think she'll have a soft spot for Meghan.
And took myself and Prince Harry to the North Pole last time round.
Oh, did you? That was brave.
Shared a tent with him, right? That's incredibly brave.
The Queen is actually very down to earth, and she's very accommodating.
But not all royals are as lovable as the Queen.
Of course, some members of the royal family are very tricky, and will pose problems for Meghan.
They all play up to their stereotypes. You've got Prince Philip, who's very crusty, formal, and pretty dismissive.
I'm going to delete that. We're going to pretend like it never happened.
Prince Philip once said to a lady wearing a dress with a zip down the middle, "I suppose if I pulled down that zip, I'd get into an awful lot of trouble." So, Meghan, don't wear a dress with a zip.
Yellow it is. Thank you.
I'm sure we've all got uncles and aunts out there that we're deeply embarrassed about.
Andrew has a streak of hanging out with rich dictators. That plays badly with people.
I think Prince Andrew might not hold Meghan's political views, shall we put it that way?
I'd say to Meghan, a sharp right turn when you meet Andy. It could be trouble.
Okay.
Edward's a bit boring.
And then, of course, there's Princess Anne, who is very much her father's daughter.
She can be very frosty. She can be very difficult.
Divorce?
Very mirror.
Never been mentioned. By anybody.
So they're just like any other family. They just happen to be the most famous family on planet Earth.
And when you meet them, you can land yourself in all kinds of trouble if you betray your commoner status.
Oh my goodness, a commoner. I didn't even know what that term meant until I moved here. But, you know, somebody beneath the royal family is really what a commoner is.
Don't judge. We're young. I'm having fun.
Kate Middleton's middle-class mother, Carol, fell foul of upper-class etiquette when she first met the Queen by saying, "Pleased to meet you," instead of the required, "How do you do?" But even "how do you do" can be a pitfall.
How do you do is not a question.
Mark Francis Vendelli is a wealthy London socialite who knows the do's and don'ts of upper-class etiquette.
When someone says, "I'm fine," after you've introduced yourself by saying, "How do you do?" well, that's just a disaster.
How do you do?
You're meant to say, "How do you do?" back, and that's it. I mean, that really is it. It's just protocol. It's the way it's done. I'm not asking you a question. There's no question mark, really, at all. I'm not interested.
And there was more. At Prince William's passing out parade, Carol was also frowned upon for chewing gum in front of the Queen.
Chewing gum is non-admissible. No one chews gum. If you chew gum, you do it in private. It's one of those things that no one should ever know you've done. It's a sin, a crime against humanity, if you ask me.
In Britain, you actually cannot move classes. I mean, you are who you are and where you're from.
Socialite Caroline Stenbury is reported to have dated Prince Andrew and was born into British high society.
I come from a very aristocratic background. In America, you can buy status. In England, it doesn't work that way. You can buy lifestyle, but you cannot buy status and class.
As a commoner, Meghan will have to work hard to get the royals on her side.
I think you've got to be incredibly strong-willed and strong-minded to last in that family if you're not born into it.
Coming up, Meghan and Harry's engagement shakes up the House of Windsor.
He's just torn up the rule book.
A few people have their noses put out of joint a bit.
Things are changing. She's modernizing the royal family.
In just a few days' time, in the magnificent St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry will say "I do." It will almost be a year to the day since Meghan made her first official appearance as the royal girlfriend watching her prince play polo.
Meghan was definitely open to people around her about the fact that she was falling for Prince Harry.
When you see them looking at each other, it just kind of makes your heart melt. It's kind of the fairy tale story.
And by September, everyone was asking, where was this all leading? A shirt Meghan wore seemed to hint at an answer.
The name of the shirt was the husband shirt. Meghan, I think, was very much sending a bit of a message.
It's just that connotation of, oh, I'm going to put on your shirt because I didn't bring anything and I spent the night, and even if I do have my own stuff, I want to smell your aftershave, and it just has that kind of little glimpse into what's really going on behind closed doors.
Body language experts Judy James and Tanya Ryman can spot the hidden signs of what's really going on.
It's something that a lot of us do when we fall in love for the first time. You suddenly want to dress a bit like your partner so that you look like twins, and that implies that you're very like-minded. It's almost as though you want to become one person.
When a woman does that, what she's trying to express is not only her desire to be in his body and world, but also the fact that, hey, this is my guy and I want everyone to see it.
I think it's a lovely token of togetherness. And she looks like a sex bomb. Great.
Once the relationship was public, there was no stopping this power couple.
I think they both knew very quickly that they had found someone very special. He made it his mission to make sure that he could see her regularly.
Just 2 months later, Meghan quit her successful role in Suits
Thanks, guys.
and moved straight to London to live with Harry in Kensington Palace.
Kensington Palace has very poignant memories for Prince Harry of his mother. William and Harry lived there with her. It's where they grew up. They loved being there.
It was there, in Nottingham Cottage, that Harry finally decided the moment was right to ask Meghan for her hand in marriage.
Just a standard, typical night for us.
Cozy night. It was just an unextraordinary moment.
What we're doing, just roasting chicken and
Roasting
having...
a chicken. Trying to roast a chicken.
Trying to roast a chicken.
You know, they weren't on the top of a mountain in Kenya or something utterly dramatic.
It was so sweet and natural and very romantic.
And remarkably ordinary, and I think that's so telling.
I could barely let you finish proposing. I said, can I say yes now?
She didn't even let me finish. She said, can I say yes, can I say yes? And then there was hugs, and I had the ring in my finger, and I was like, can I give you the ring? And she goes, oh, yes, the ring. So, no, it was a really nice moment. It was just the two of us.
He's just torn up the rule book, fell in love, and just wanted to marry the love of his life.
We'll always be us together as a team.
So nicely said, isn't it?
You only had to look at them to see how in love they were.
I've got goosebumps. They are so in love.
Time for the official engagement photo shoot, a tradition for all newly betrothed royals.
That was her stepping out onto the world stage.
Everybody thinks about, Harry walking in with her, but all we looked at was Meghan, because most of us, it was our first time.
Congratulations from all of us.
And Harry was, he was so proud of it.
How are you both feeling?
You can see that they're both very, very much in love.
He's found someone who he genuinely is in love with.
When Meghan turned up, she was spotted with bare legs. Not terribly royal, because you would think stockings or tights. But I think, go for it, girl. Go for it.
Things are changing. She's modernizing the royal family.
I think that's great.
Harry and Meghan were already breaking the mold in more ways than one.
I noticed her using a technique, which is something that Tom Cruise used to use on the red carpet with Nicole Kidman. A lot of Hollywood couples use it, and it's called tie signs. And what you do is you quietly do little taps on your partner. That's enough. Let's change the pose now.
The impression is that Meghan is more of the leader of the movement, so she seems to be the more dominant one in that situation.
The same scene, 36 years earlier at Charles and Diana's engagement, couldn't have been more different.
Did you find it a very hard decision, Lady Diana?
I had a long time to think about it, because I knew the pressure was on both of us.
Their bodies were quite close together. So we saw that and we thought, no, this is wonderful. When you look at Diana's facial expression, though, you can see a million conflicting emotions. 1 minute she looks incredibly sad. The next minute she kind of does quite a girlish grin. And then suddenly Charles sort of goes, yes, whatever love means. And a million stomachs sank at that moment.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
And if you watch the footage, you just see both of their faces drop.
Instantly, you just see the mouth goes down and her eyes go down. And then she looks off to the distance as if she's looking for an escape route. And you feel for her. You feel the sadness.
It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. And even though we thought they can't split up, I remember thinking they're going to be so unhappy together.
When you look at Diana and Charles, and then you compare them to Meghan and Harry, you see an enormous difference. They're so playful, they're so fun, they're so in love.
Very first time we met.
You could see they were very touchy-feely, and that was wonderful. She's getting married and marrying the love of her life, and that's really what showed through to me.
They are totally in love with each other. Harry showed the world that their mother's son wouldn't behave the same way that the father did. Harry laid to rest that ghost of his mother and father and their awkwardness.
Coming up, to survive, American Meghan must now learn the baffling rules of British etiquette.
She's going to have to learn the royal way.
There are formalities, there are rules.
Everything is going to be complicated. Everything. I mean, there's nothing that won't be difficult.
When Meghan Markle walks down the aisle with Prince Harry in a few days' time, she'll not only be marrying the Queen's grandson, she'll also be joining an institution steeped in tradition. She must now follow their strict protocol or risk being ostracized from the royal inner circle.
It's not easy for anyone to marry into this family. It's like marrying into an alien family. They're not like us.
You're living your life in a building full of courtiers, looking at you, serving you, gossiping about you, and it can be very difficult to deal with.
There are formalities, there are rules, there's, manners.
What is the right etiquette to do this? What is the right etiquette to do that? How do we walk in a room? Everything always has to be perfect.
Meghan's upbringing in laid-back Los Angeles is in stark contrast to the formality of her new royal life.
I'm a California girl, born and raised, so the flip-flop culture is part of just who I am. I love my cutoffs and flip-flops and being as relaxed as can be.
Meghan will need to ditch her flip-flops and come to grips with the British aristocracy's complex rules of etiquette.
Every princess goes through princess training, so she'll definitely have her curtsy down.
Because she is not a blood royal, Meghan will have to curtsy to pretty much everybody.
She has to curtsy to Prince George and Princess Charlotte. And then the baby. She has to curtsy.
The perfect royal curtsy is just a gentle bob. Don't go down too far, you may never come back up.
Everything is going to be complicated. Everything. I mean, there's nothing that won't be difficult.
A fellow American who's already made the transition is Julie Montague. The yoga teacher from Illinois moved to England 14 years ago and married aristocrat Viscount Luke Hinchinbrook.
3 months into dating, he basically paid for something on his credit card, and I looked at the credit card and it said that long name, but I didn't know that it was pronounced Viscount. I thought it was Viscount because it's spelled like discount. I was very naive, but I think all of America, for the most part, is quite naive about these other titles that actually do exist.
At royal events, Meghan will need to master the baffling rules of formal dining. At official banquets, she will have to grapple with at least 5 drinking glasses and up to 12 pieces of silverware.
There's all these different knives and forks and spoons. As an American, we use one fork, and occasionally we use a knife when we gotta cut through a piece of meat.
wish her the best of luck, because sitting at those long tables with ambassadors and other royal families, and I wouldn't be able to eat it. I'd be so nervous.
First course, you turn to the person on your right. And that normally goes around the table, but it's dictated by the host. And if that happens to be the Queen, you follow. If they want to break that rule, and for whatever reason they turn to the other side, you all turn to the other side.
You don't discuss money. Money it's completely crass to discuss. It's just understood.
Americans will ask you what you do. I mean, what do I do? It's preposterous to ask someone what they do, let alone ask what they earn. I mean, it's mortifying.
One of the very first dinners that I had with my husband was a big formal dinner. And, you know, my wine glass was empty, so I just poured myself a glass of wine. I mean, you just do not do that. It's a learning process. It took me a while.
The Queen.
Now, I heard that if the Queen puts her knife and fork down at the dinner, you have to stop eating. That means I'm going to eat really fast. I hope Meghan knows that.
And even a simple thing like walking around a palace can be a recipe for disaster.
Normally, the man walks ahead of the lady when going downstairs. Going upstairs, however, it's the other way around. A lady goes first with the husband behind, so if the lady does tumble, she falls into her husband and the husband breaks the fall. And when any lady, Meghan included, is getting into a car, she wants to lead with her bottom. The knees and ankle remain glued together and she lifts and swivels into the car, so we avoid flashing. There is a picture of the Duchess of Cambridge getting it wrong.
She's going to have to learn the royal way. That's a process that takes years.
But just 4 weeks after her engagement, so-called commoner Meghan had to face her biggest test to date. It was time to meet the royal family at Sandringham, the country estate of her future grandmother-in-law, the Queen.
Everything is done pinpoint perfect. So everybody arrives in order of importance. So the Queen is already there and everybody arrives in rank.
It must have been very unnerving for Meghan, because I can remember the first time I did it. Suddenly, Meghan will be stood facing the Queen of England.
One refers to the Queen as Your Majesty, and to the Duke of Edinburgh as Your Royal Highness, and in the second instance and thereafter as Ma'am and Sir.
One of the rules that I learned very quickly is you just can't come down to breakfast in your pajamas.
Morning, sunshine.
That was actually a big one for me, and I remember being told to go back upstairs and change. So that was quite shocking.
A critical moment for Meghan came after the traditional Christmas Day church service, where she appeared with the family.
I think it was rather lovely that outside the church, she followed Kate's lead in curtsying for the Queen, and she went just that little bit lower, which I think was probably for her the ultimate sign of respect.
This is where Meghan, being an actress who's charmed people all over the world, I think held her in really good stead because she's able to hold her own.
Meghan had survived the perils of protocol on Christmas Day. But the next day, it was time for another mainstay of the royal calendar, the Boxing Day pheasant shoot.
British aristocracy love shooting, fishing, polo. All of these kind of things are very, very upper class. All of these things she will have to get used to doing.
But that Christmas, for the first time since he was a small boy, Prince Harry didn't go to the shoot. And everyone was asking the same question. Was it all down to animal lover Meghan?
This is obviously Meghan's influence on him because she doesn't like hunting and, other blood sports.
Debbie Frank was Diana's close friend and astrologer for almost a decade.
I'm sure that Meghan has a different sensibility about shooting, and actually so did Diana. And she tried to alert her boys to the ramifications of shooting these animals. And this is the modern life. This is great.
There's very much a move for the royals to move. They've got to move on. They've got to be current. They've got to be modern.
I think she's going to shake it up. She's the right person for this movement.
Coming up, shocking revelations of racism in Meghan's childhood.
They used very nasty words about her color mixture. The use of the N-word was quite common.
In just a few days' time, American actress Meghan Markle will marry action hero Prince Harry and join the world's most traditional institution, the British royal family.
It's so exciting that for the first time ever, there's a mixed-race person marrying into the royal family.
Gotta remember, not only is she marrying the royal family, but Harry is marrying her family. He's gonna get a mother-in-law that's black with dreads. Yes! Are we changing or what?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
The royal family have never had a black member. Let's just put that out there. Now we have the first ever mixed race royal bride. And that's a big deal.
Meghan, daughter of African-American social worker Doria, grew up in Woodland Hills, California. In the early 1980s, it was a mostly white neighborhood. Half-sister Samantha Markle lived with Meghan in their blended family.
Of course she experienced racism. When Doria and Meg would go out, people would assume that Doria was the nanny or the maid. How hurtful not only for Doria, but for Meg to see that. You know, and Meg's very strong. She would reassure her mom. But still, that lingers.
Meghan! As a child, Meghan could not escape prejudice from people close to her family.
I guess shocking for me was that many older generations were uncomfortable with the fact that we were a blended, multicultural family. They used very nasty words about her color mixture, about her hair. The use of the N-word was quite common, and horribly disparaging things about an African-American woman and a Caucasian man mating, being physical.
My mom's amazing. We're so different. My mom is a yoga instructor and a social worker, and she's got a nose ring and dreadlocks, and she's super free-spirited and laid back. And so, yeah, so she's like, you just came out like this. I don't know where you came from.
Meghan is just days away from marrying Prince Harry and making history.
The fact that there's now an interracial relationship within the British royal family is hugely significant and something that should be celebrated.
I think they're showing that it is outdated and they're ready to change, and everybody wants to embrace this change.
Bringing diversity to the royal family and breathing a breath of fresh air. You know, I think that this is going to keep them going even longer. I really do.
Now that they have opened their doors to her, certain members of her future family will have to tread carefully.
Meghan's marrying into a family which has, to put it mildly, a dodgy track record on race, and one of the leading culprits is Princess Markle of Kent.
Princess Markle of Kent is married to the Queen's cousin and has a reputation for causing controversy.
She was at a restaurant in New York and she was having dinner, and there was a group of rowdy people next to her who were Afro-Caribbean, and she rather snootily yelled at them, "Go back to the colonies." I mean, that sort of language and behaviour is totally unacceptable.
Meghan had yet to meet the extended royal family. But just a few days before Christmas, the Queen held a festive banquet at Buckingham Palace, inviting Meghan along.
It was the first big event that she had been invited to meet the wider family.
Also present was Princess Michael of Kent.
She was wearing a blackamoor brooch, which depicts effectively an African slave.
Number one, why would you wear it anyway? It's kind of like caricature of black subservient people. Number two, did she not know Meghan was going to be there? It's so awkward.
So what on earth Meghan thought about that, God only knows.
As the Duchess left the banquet, a press photographer captured an image of the brooch.
Immediately, there's a storm of controversy that created international headlines and massive embarrassment for the royal family.
She's got to know. She had to have known, and I found it really offensive, and I felt bad for Meghan. And I'm glad that the attention was brought to it.
She had to apologise, and I hope she apologised to Meghan in person as well.
You know, at the end of the day, I'm really just proud of who I am and where I come from, and we have never put any focus on that. We've just focused on who we are as a couple.
You are dealing with people like Princess Michael of Kent and others who have a, frankly, not very impressive record when it comes to talking about matters of race. They're going to have to wake up. It's not Meghan Markle's problem, it's their problem.
Coming up, Meghan goes walkabout and is a sensation with the public. But when it comes to being a royal bride, she needs to tread incredibly carefully.
Meghan is walking a tightrope.
There are certain unsaid rules. You know, you don't steal the show. I don't think they'd be very happy.
Meghan Markle had met the Windsors, the family she'll marry into in just a few days' time. Next, she set out to meet their subjects, the British public.
Hey, Meghan.
Instead of walking the red carpet, actress Meghan would be hitting the streets of Northern England.
Meghan is definitely the star of the royal family right now.
Because she is one of the few royals to have an actual job, I think that gives her that sense of what it's like in the real world.
Her job and the way that she's been in front of a camera for so long will have prepared her for such a role.
Wow, amazing. It's such an American way. We just hug everybody. We open up our arms and give you a big bear hug.
Which traditionalists, like me, are not that fond of. The moment they become like a Walt Disney World character that you can go up and hug and squeeze and sort of have your photograph with, the quicker the majesty is eroded.
When you see Meghan with the crowds, one of the first things you realize is how close she's willing to get to them. So she's right in there.
I know in the UK we've never really learnt to do handshakes. She went in with a cocked thumb, which is a sign of enjoyment. But as she was taking people's hands, you can actually see her use the thumb clamp. Now, Trump does that in an aggressive way. But what she did, it would show a very warm handshake and a real desire. It's almost like a hug in a handshake.
As Meghan toured every corner of the kingdom, the story was the same. She had completely won the hearts of the people.
She was very instantly likeable. You could put her in any situation and people are going to love her.
Your favourite royal?
Yes, my favourite royal, yes.
I was shaking her hand and I apologised for my hands being really cold, and so she put into her pocket and got this heat pack out for me.
That royal frenzy was back.
But, as history has proved, a princess can be too popular. Nearly 40 years earlier, the newly married Princess Diana drew huge crowds wherever she went. But her popularity with ordinary people overshadowed that of Prince Charles.
The crowds just adored Diana. And in any kind of walkabout, he was feeling basically quite jealous about it.
He
couldn't cope with the fact that his wife was so popular and her popularity massively outstretched his.
I've come to the conclusion that really it would have been far easier to have had 2 wives, to have covered both sides of the street. And I could have walked down the middle, directing the operation.
Diana was the first to reach out and touch the people. She embraced them.
Diana was so adored, she became known as the people's princess. And after Meghan was such a hit across Britain, she was hailed as the new people's princess.
There was definitely a feeling that Meghan could be the next people's princess, because you saw the way that she was with the crowds, you saw how charmed they were by her.
And, as Diana discovered, there's a golden rule when you're a royal wife.
Don't steal the show. If that's overstepped, I don't think they'd be very happy.
Choreographer Wayne Sleep danced with Diana and became a close friend to the princess.
Unfortunately, Diana stole the show quite often, but she didn't mean to. It was the press and the publicity and the people that put her up there on that pedestal.
Remember, Princess Diana caused huge ructions within the royal family. Meghan is walking a tightrope because any comparisons to Princess Diana will still, within the royal family, get a lot of people's back up.
It heaps tremendous pressure on Meghan Markle to be seen as the next Princess Diana. Far better to lower the bar a bit.
Coming up, once married, will Harry be the first royal grandchild to leave the kingdom?
I saw the plans for the home in Malibu.
There's nothing holding them back.
When Meghan Markle marries Prince Harry in a few days' time, everything she wears and every choice she makes will be scrutinized.
It is every woman's dream. I mean, every top designer around the world will be clawing to get their clothes on her.
I'm very interested to seeing where Meghan takes the style. I'm wondering, is she gonna pull from Princess Diana's classic looks, or is she going to take on a California girl style?
I think she's gonna hold fast to some of those American trends.
Either way, when Meghan marries, she is set to become a global icon.
The fashion editors are going to be watching her. What shoes she's wearing, what bag she's wearing, how she's wearing her hair, what is the makeup. And people will emulate that because they see that as the pinnacle of British taste.
I think what's really interesting about Meghan is that since she's been making her public appearances, she has really changed the rule book.
Her very edgy fashion, she wears trousers, shock. She wears Alexander McQueen power suits to a black tie dinner, shock.
It's modern, it's young, it's now, and she's making herself really relevant.
I am still getting used to seeing her in the hats.
You know, I love the idea of the hat because it actually adds a little pizzazz, it adds a little spunk, it's some sass there.
After her first walkabout, Meghan's Stradbary handbag flew off the shelves in just 11 minutes.
All these overcoats have been selling out like back to back.
The Finlay & Co. sunglasses that Meghan wore at the Invictus Games went in a blink of an eye.
She actually can do no wrong. Everything looks good on her. Her hair always looks great. She's a natural beauty, and she's got a bit of sex appeal without it being too raunchy that nobody can handle it.
She is going to change the look of the British fashion for everybody.
Meghan will supercharge the British fashion industry to an estimated $1.4 billion.
I want in on the Markle Sparkle. If I can invest in Meghan, I want in.
But is Meghan set to dethrone the current queen of royal fashion, Kate Middleton?
For the first time, Kate has real competition.
Oh gosh, it's already starting. Meghan is compared to Kate non-stop.
Who's wearing what? Who's wearing it better? Who's more fashion forward? Who's wearing the best jewel?
For Meghan, it all means the relationship with Kate will need some very careful handling.
Well, I don't think there's an incredibly firm friendship there yet, but this is still early days.
And as soon as they're married, the comparisons will continue as the nation's expectations grow.
With Kate just having her third baby, it puts pressure on her, but they're ready for a family, so they're gonna have a baby soon, I know it.
So Meghan, over to you.
They're going to have beautiful children, one boy that's a little bit redheaded and a girl that looks just like Meghan.
Traditionally, children have been farmed out to nannies and boarding schools by the royals.
I don't think that they are particularly warm and huggy, and not in a bad way. I think that it's formal.
With Prince Charles, the Queen and Prince Philip were firmly old school.
They sent Charles to a boarding school up in Scotland, Gordonston, that he hated and was terribly homesick.
When Charles became a father himself, he wasn't known for warm cuddles and kisses either. But William and Harry's mother, Diana, was determined to do things her way.
Of course, with Diana, completely different. She mothered them.
Diana is the fun mum, taking William and Harry to theme park rides, taking them out for burgers and sneaking them out of Kensington Palace.
They came back to Kensington Palace one day, and there was the Prince of Wales, and he said, "Have you had a good day?" And William said, "Yeah, we've just been to a really great burger bar." And the Prince looked rather bemused, and he looked at Diana. He said, "Why do you take them to a burger bar when we've got perfectly good chefs?" Well, of course, he didn't see the real point of this.
I think Diana had such a gift for motherhood. She was such a hands-on mother, and she imbued her children with love.
Prince Harry will very much be in the same mould as will Meghan. They will not want their children to feel entitled and grand.
But what will be grand is the magnificent mansion where Meghan and Harry get to bring up their children.
The British royal family is the last remaining Downton Abbey.
It's usual for the Queen to give a house to the newlyweds. She gave Princess Anne Gatcombe Park, Prince Charles, Clarence House, and so on.
William and Kate were given Amner Hall in Norfolk. And this isn't a 2 up, 2 down. This is a 42 up, 42 down, and masses of acreage to go with it.
I should expect Meghan and Harry to get something quite magnificent.
And there will be some familiar faces among their neighbors in the British countryside. Think Beverly Hills, with a bit more rain. Here you will find the homes of everyone from the Beckhams to the Clooneys. All very appealing. But this is a cross-Atlantic relationship. And just maybe the couple will be thinking of somewhere a little further away. The United States of America. It's something that Princess Diana discussed with her friend and astrologer, Debbie Frank.
Harry had a link with Venus on his ascendant going through California. And we were just surmising at the time, Diana and myself, about what that might mean. We certainly thought it was possible that Harry was going to have this really big, the ultimate special relationship with America.
Meghan won't give up her family. She still has huge connections in LA, so I think we'll see them possibly partly based in America.
Maybe Harry will buy the home which Diana wanted. I saw the plans for the home in Malibu, and the princess thought, what a great idea for my boys. What a wonderful opportunity for them to experience America.
There's nothing holding them back. I suspect they'll be spending actually a lot of time there.
Oh my gosh, I hope they don't go to America. I want them to stay right in that palace where they belong.
I couldn't think of anything better than Harry and Meghan moving to America, having a baby, and it being an American citizen. Yes.
But before all that, they have to get married. Coming up, the whole world is holding their breath for the big event.
Here comes Meghan, and all these girls out there must think, well, I could be a princess one day too.
People are going to lose it. I know I am. Oh, it's gonna be too much.
Harry and Meghan met in July 2016. and things moved fast. It was a whirlwind of secret rendezvous in glamorous London, intimate nights under the stars in Africa. Oh, and a special meeting at Buckingham Palace with Granny, the Queen. In the end, it was less than 2 years before they got engaged. Now the world is going crazy for the ultimate fairy tale wedding where Prince Charming will take his beautiful princess's hand in marriage. Next week, American Meghan Markle will marry Prince Harry.
Every fairy tale has a prince and a princess who get married at the end. They all have a wonderful, happy ending.
The wedding is Cinderella, with the horses and the crowds and waiting to see the dress for the first time.
Harry and Meghan's wedding is like no other wedding.
You have a young woman who is being plucked from a relatively ordinary life, who is now going to be living her life on the world stage, marrying a prince.
Around 600 guests, including Sir Elton John, the Beckhams, and Meghan's pal Serena Williams, are rumored to have been invited to attend the big day. All of America and millions around the world will be tuning in to watch this momentous occasion.
That transatlantic link is terribly important for all sorts of reasons, and having it embodied in the royal family is fantastic news.
Over the past 40 years, royal weddings have been glittering global events.
I think all grand weddings, whether they're royal or aristocratic, have a magical quality. Weddings and magic go together like a hand and a glove.
In 1981, Prince Charles wed Lady Diana. It was the wedding of the 20th century, watched by a TV audience of 1 billion people.
And this is what they're waiting for. An appearance on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, which has seen so many royal and national occasions in the past.
But I think we all get excited by a royal wedding because they do it so well, the royal family. All the colours, all the flags, it's just unique to Britain.
Next came Charles's brother, Prince Andrew, who married an ecstatic Sarah Ferguson. And in 2011, Prince William married Kate Middleton. Kate chose her younger sister Pippa to hold her train as she entered Westminster Abbey for the ceremony. But the bridesmaid in a clinging dress almost stole the show as the press went crazy over what they described as her perfect posterior.
Look at it, little. Yeah, show a little tush.
Meghan and Harry's wedding will have a very special magic of its own.
This is beyond the American dream. I mean, it is a wonderful magic story.
People are going to lose it. I know I am.
I'm trying to get a ticket. I'm like, how do I get in?
The carriage, the dress, the horses. It's gonna be too much.
It's taking place in Windsor Castle.
Windsor has its own charm. It's like something it is something out of the Middle Ages. It's a fairy tale castle.
For an American, it's being married in something that is just older than your country, like a lot older than your country.
There'll be a full turnout of the royal family, including the little ones and the big ones and the old ones and the young ones. And the Queen will obviously be incredibly proud because she adores Harry.
And that full turnout might be a little fuller than some had expected. The word is that Harry has invited 2 ex-girlfriends, party girl Chelsea Davy and glamorous ex-model Cressida Bonus.
That's awkward.
Would I invite exes to a wedding? Hell no.
Now, you know Meghan is a cool wife if she's gonna allow the exes to come, because Harry not letting her ex-husband come, I tell you that much. You stay in the United States and watch on television.
The most closely guarded secret right now is the design of Meghan's wedding dress. Nearly 40 years ago, David Emanuel was a young fashion designer tasked with creating Princess Diana's dress. And he was under strict orders to make sure nothing was leaked to the press.
Behind the scenes of Diana's dress sounds almost like a movie because we had to go to extraordinary lengths to keep it secret. I had a tiny little studio in Brook Street. Every morning you'd look out and you'd see cameramen on the rooftops opposite, focusing their lens on my front door. They were waiting for her to arrive or disappear for fittings. We deliberately put coloured threads in our waste bins just to throw them off, and deliberately put it in a scrap of pink taffeta. So, and the press the next morning said, the wedding guy is going to be in pink taffeta.
The voracious press tried every trick in the book to get their hands on an exclusive scoop.
One of my seamstresses arrived one morning, and there was a member of the British press who opened a suitcase full of cash. But we were very good. We sealed our lips, nothing leaked out.
The world watched as the dress was revealed.
The world gets its first full glimpse of the fairy tale princess and the wedding dress that has been a carefully guarded secret.
Diana in the dress made history.
As bewitching and romantic a bride as ever touched the heart of the world.
And now, with a few days to go, the world is speculating on who will dress Meghan for her big day. Odds-on favorites are former Burberry boss Christopher Bailey and haute couture duo Ralph and Russo, whose floor-sweeping frocks can carry a royal price tag of up to $500,000.
What would I put Meghan in? Something very sleek and clean, quite body with a long train, and I'd put her in a clinging silk crepe. But, you know, she can't be the sex pop on her wedding day. She can look smouldering and wonderful, but it's got to be regal.
Harry and Meghan's wedding service will take place in the magnificent St. George's Chapel, which was founded nearly 700 years ago. It was the final resting place of King Henry VIII, who famously married 6 times. Hopefully, Harry will not be going down that road. This will be a very modern wedding, but everyone will be on pins and needles.
Meghan's going to be very nervous. She's going to be on the one hand thinking, oh, this is wonderful, my dream's about to come true. And on the other hand, she's going to think, my God, oh!
Of course, on the wedding day, the most important guest won't be there, Princess Diana.
Not being able to meet his mom, it's so important to me to know that she's a part of this with us.
The main stone itself is sourced from Botswana, and the little diamonds either side are from my mother's jewelry collection to make sure that she's with us on this crazy journey together.
It's beautiful, and he designed it. It's incredible.
What do you think your mother would have thought of Meghan or said about Meghan?
Oh, they'd be thick as thieves. Without question. I think she would be over the moon, jumping up and down, you know, so excited for me. But then, as I said, would have probably been best friends with Meghan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really miss having her around and miss being able to share the happy news. But, you know, with the ring and with everything else that's going on, I'm sure she's with us. I'm sure she's with us, yeah.
After the service, the newlyweds will embark on a Cinderella-style procession, watched by millions lining the streets. And then comes the big crowd-pleasing moment.
My favorite part of all is when they get to the kiss.
The royal kiss is probably the most highly anticipated part of the royal wedding. It all started with Prince Charles and Diana on that balcony.
First, there was a perfunctory peck on the hand.
Boy, it was awkward, that one, wasn't it?
But then everyone got what they wanted.
And then you had Sarah and Andrew. Shall we, you know, get the kiss on, kind of like making a big joke of it.
Not surprisingly, Prince William and Kate were a bit more embarrassed about theirs.
So what will happen with Meghan and Harry? Will he slip the tongue in? Go on, Harry.
At the Queen's wedding in 1947, presents were delivered from all over the world. An Aladdin's cave of silver, a handy stuffed gazelle, and enough gloves to wave at her subjects for the rest of her reign. But Harry and Meghan will be doing things their way. Instead of gifts, they want donations to their favorite charities, ranging from Surfers Against Sewage to the Meena Mahila Foundation, helping women in Mumbai's urban slums.
We're going to see this extraordinary sort of powerhouse team couple between Harry and Meghan, loved by the world.
I think it's a case of move over George and Amal.
People like to see stars in the royal family, and they see glamour. And Meghan Markle brings all that.
She was certainly going to shake it up and is going to make them drag it into the 21st century.
Everything indicates that they're going to be very, very happy ever after.
Meghan proves that you don't have to be from British high society to marry into the royal family.
Here comes Meghan, and all these girls out there must think, well, I could be a princess one day too.
You know what's so crazy? Is that he actually is ending up with an American. It could have been me.
It's actually possible that you can be biracial and be a princess.
Whether you believe in fairy tales or not, most people believe in love. And you can see that they love each other, and that's what's important.
It's a recipe for, well, we'll see.